Okay, let's admit her in. Hey, Jenna, how are you?
Hey.
This is Joanna. She is, I'll let her do all of her credentials, but she is a ABA consultant. And this is Jenna Birmingham. She is one of my clients. Her and her husband are building a house here, and her little one's got autism.
Okay.
So I thought that she would be pretty interested in tonight's event because they're building a house and they're probably looking to do a therapy space for him. So
Yeah, absolutely. And how old is your child?
He will be 3 next month.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm always such a big advocate of early intervention. Unfortunately, and I don't know if it's a South Carolina thing or what, but sometimes, a kid will receive a diagnosis and then they don't get services for 5 years because there's wait lists, there's availability issues, and now with COVID, things are just crazier than ever. But it's great that you're able to start so early. Yeah, so I have been in the field of autism, I guess, for about 12 years. I had the pleasure of working with Debbie a while back.
Yep.
Alex, my favorite little baby. So now I'm a BCBA, so I do program supervision here in Greenville, and I'm also a licensed social worker. So I wear a few different hats. So I kind of see things from a few different angles.
Okay.
Cool. I actually have my speech prepared, Debbie, a little bit. Now it's kind of weird. Okay.
Well, go ahead. I'm gonna let you take the reins. You're the expert.
Okay. Oh, again, I told Debbie earlier, if Google goes down, I know about 7 things. Okay. So I'll help you with these 7 things. So basically, I was going to start out by saying that, every kid with special needs is going to be different, which is why their sensory space is going to have to be individualized. Before I hopped onto this event, I did a Google search of like how to create a sensory room or how much does it cost. And the range I got was $8,000 to $15,000.
Wow.
Wow.
I was like, little down payment. I'm gonna turn my light real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Might be a little bit better. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. I'll work in the dark sometimes.
So they say that the average cost to do that is between 8 and how much?
$15,000.
Wow.
And you know what? I actually showed some of my clients of varying ages, pictures of what a sensory room should look like from Google. And the overwhelming majority of these kids with autism said things like, I have it written down, hold on. That makes me want to throw up. That's too much. We don't need all that. Ain't no one got time for that. No.
These are all autistic kids that said that? Wow.
From varying ages. Yeah. I think even like a 4-year-old just said, no, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. It's one of those things where you could spend a lot of money, for your child at Christmas, but what are they going to play with?
The box.
Boxes, exactly. Some of the best, sensory rooms or sensory spaces that I've seen have, maybe been closet sized, or, with everyone working from home now due to COVID and therapies having to move into the home, we're having to get creative with our spaces, So I always tell everyone, don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money or really go out of your way to develop this big elaborate space for your child. They've told me that, that too big is really too much, in this sense. I mean, less is really more. And I guess you have to consider each individual child's sensory needs. Some kids will be perfectly happy with just a fidget spinner, and you can do that in a little pop-up tent. Some kids may want a trampoline. Some kids may want a swing, which I've always seen indoor ways. I love how people can adapt their new homes or whatever homes to accommodate, these needs. Some parents have put up just shower rods in their kitchen because they're working from home, there's other kids in the house, or there's just not enough space. But yes, I think smaller is definitely better and less is more. Let's see. Here we go. And kids have told me that when it comes to their sensory spaces, they like to just have a handful of things, kind of more catered to them. A lot of these packages that I see online, it has, a trampoline and a tube and fidgets and a bean bag. And a kid told me, take me to the room and give me 2 things to choose from, because whenever I'm mad, this is what he said, I'm the Hulk and decisions are hard. I can relate that to, at the end of the day, when I'm running on empty, I want someone to tell me what to do for dinner, what to watch on Netflix. Don't make me pick.
That makes sense.
And I was like, that's brilliant, kid. And the reason for that is because our kids have, pardon me, under or over aroused nervous systems. And the sensory breaks allow them, hi, sweetheart. Hey, baby.
Bud.
Hey, bud. Are you going to help me? Because I don't know what I'm doing. You going to help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to brush his
Oh, Alex wants to see too.
Okay. You show me how you brush your teeth, Bubba.
Yeah.
So really, if I feel like if we add too much to a sensory room, hi Alex, if we add too much, we can actually add to the problem. More of like a sensory overload. Another thing that I want to point out is it's good to incorporate the sensory time into their daily routine, regardless of what's going on with them. Sometimes it turns into more of like a reward sort of thing. Like we say, oh, well, he has these sensory quote unquote issues or sensory needs. He likes the trampoline. He gets that when he's overstimulated. So do it on a regular basis. You don't want to give him that deprivation. Yeah, kids like it simple. And I said, if you spend $1,000 on Christmas toys, kids want the boxes. It's always good to kind of use some trial and error here too. If you can, maybe try to visit like a sensory friendly gym or center or playground and just kind of see what works. I wouldn't invest in a lot of materials for a sensory room until you kind of some trial and error. It's more important to know what you don't like and what doesn't work than what does work.
Yeah, I mean, I know at least with Alex, like he likes deep pressure, and we thought when he was little that he would probably like a beanbag chair or something like that, because it like curls around some. And I think the only time he ever really sat in it was he was probably like 18 months old.
Yeah,
it was like one day and that was it, and then he could have cared less about it. But we had like a swing that we made, just like a piece of wood that was round and like some big like thick rope, and that he loved.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing cost maybe like $20, and we made it and he loved it.
Yeah. Never be afraid. Definitely never be afraid to experiment. Sometimes it's the smallest thing. So I had a kid in the school who would like throw his desk every single day when he was done with his work. He had a hard time communicating that he wanted a break or that he was all done. And he was about to be like, suspended and or expelled from school. And I was like, okay, have we tried? I was like, bear with me. This may sound silly. Put some Velcro under his desk. And they're like, why? I was like, that way he can sit for a few minutes talking. I don't like waiting. My body feels weird if I have to wait. I get uncomfortable. So by just taking that, that 10-cent, Velcro sticker and putting it underneath his desk, he was able to stay in school.
Wow.
And I was like, cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like the most random things that help or work or whatever.
It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to work.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of looking at some things that I've seen commonly in sensory rooms that really help out a lot. Like my big go-tos are, just a place to sit down, maybe like you said, like a beanbag chair, or even like a little, a small beanbag that you can put in your hand and just kind of fidget with back and forth. Fidgets are really good. They're less distracting. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things. Rubik's cubes are really good. Swings. There's ones that you can sit on, ones that you can sit in, ones that you can kind of cocoon in. Small trampolines, body socks, weighted blankets, and those can be for the whole body or even for the lap. Something that a kid told me that has always stuck with me with sensory, needs. He said, every day I wake up with a certain number of coins. And throughout the day, I have to give those coins away. Like when I have to be social, and he used air quotes. He's like, when I have to be social for people, when I have to do what I'm told, when I have to sit in my chair, sometimes they get taken away from me. Like, if we're on our way to the park and we have to go a different way, that upsets me. So I get my coins stolen. When my coins are out, it's time for a break. I need my sensory break. And I kind of related to that, definitely being an introverted person. I was like, when my social battery's done, poof, I disappear. Let's see here. Definitely whenever you're creating a space, we want to make sure that we are making a safe space for them. So, no breakable items, no cords, outlets are covered. Some of our kids have a hard time with fluorescent lighting. So I always recommend maybe warm colors or pastel colors. Sometimes if that's not feasible, if they're already there, you can get like heat safe paper and like put it over the light. So there's always ways to make accommodations for things like that. Is he currently seeing an OT right now?
Not right now since we've moved. When we were in the early intervention program in Utah, he was seeing an OT there.
Okay.
Yeah. Toothpaste. Yeah.
One thing that we did with Alex when he was little too was like rope lights. And you get rope lights that don't get real hot, but it's still enough light, but not overwhelming. Fluorescent light, like calming kind of light.
Yeah,
that helped a lot too.
And even like Christmas lights, I've seen people do that. Yeah. And again, sometimes all you really need are just a few little things that will work, and give them that input. And sometimes, they may need 20 minutes in a sensory room. Sometimes they may need 5 seconds. I stim, the way I stim might be like, popping my neck or something, in 2 seconds it's done. I'm good. I don't need anything else. Kind of same thing. Kids might need like a chewy, they have that one bite and they're good to go.
Yeah, like chewy tubes are good. If a kid has a lot of oral motor, I don't want to say that it's an issue, but they are sensory seeking with oral, anything that's oral. So if it's chewing on clothes or chewing on their fingers, because Alex used to do that when he would like stick his pinky finger in his mouth all the time.
I remember that.
Yep.
That unlocked a core memory. Oh my goodness.
So he had a chewy tube. I think we still have it, but like he never really liked it. But it does have I always kind of figured if I was gonna give it to him that I wanted to know what it was like too. So I would kind of bite on it too, just to see what it felt like. And it does kind of have like a weird, like interesting kind of sense,
like a release almost.
Your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But there was another thing I was going to say too. Now I can't think of what I was going to say. Music. So a lot of kids, if they, I've noticed this with some of the kids that Alex has had in either in his classes or in like group therapy with other kids his age too. If there's too much noise going on, because he's not really like this, but if there's a lot of people talking or loud music or something else, that can be very overstimulating too. But certain types of music have either calmed him down when
Mhm.
needed, or, kind of woken him up when needed, if he was too, sleepy when he was real young or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's usually the opposite of what you think, like the, more calming music that we would think is calming is, more stimulating, I guess, right, or to them, and vice versa.
It almost kind of works kind of like ADHD medication,
Yeah,
someone without ADHD takes it, they may feel like hyper focused and it's more speedy,
yeah,
whereas with them it calms them down.
yeah. Or different textures with, different fabrics, that kind of thing. Like he's got I don't know what they're made out of, but it's like a furry kind of pillow thing, and
Mhm.
he's got a blanket that's like that too.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the way that certain fabric feels or whatever is,
Mhm.
I don't know if it's necessarily calming, but it is like comforting,
Yeah.
you know.
I feel like there's definitely some kind of release component to it. I
Yeah,
think it does trigger something. Rice bin sometimes just to put your
yeah,
hands in and squeeze.
yeah. Or
That'll help you.
we've gotten him the therapy, and I forget what they're called, but they're like not squeezy balls, but
Mhm.
they're like resistance balls, I think is what they're called, or something.
Yeah.
But and they have different like strengths. I don't know how else to describe it, but like the therapy works too, and there's 6, I think, levels of resistance with it. And you pull that, and some are like real easy to pull, and some are really hard to pull. And
Yeah.
that's kind of, like, get your frustration out kind of thing. And I've noticed that that's helped him before too.
Yeah, definitely. Now I'm thinking about like the different kinds of therapy spaces that I've seen. Like, if I were to pick a few different things for an actual therapy space, again, nothing elaborate's needed. You don't need a whole entire room or wing of the house to
Mhm.
specifically do your ABA or your OT or your speech or anything like that. Hi, sweetheart. There's different types of ABA. There's ABA where they specifically focus on intensive teaching and you're at a table for like 20, 30 minutes. But then, you know, there's also like a natural environment component where you're kind of going throughout the house, you know.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like, sometimes we'd be downstairs with Alex at the table, and then like 10 minutes later, we're upstairs, and oh, bless his heart, I'm pushing him down the hallway in a little laundry basket, working,
That's
working
right.
on
I
like,
love
working
that.
on like requesting skills, you know what I mean? So it definitely, keeping your space, open and safe and things like that. And of course, take time out for yourself and self-care. Having a child with special needs can be very taxing on the individual as well as, a marriage, your other relationships, your other children, all the family dynamics. You know what I mean? Use respite if you need it. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to cry. I've had more parents tell me than few. I wake up every day and sometimes for a split second I think about getting in the car and leaving.
Mm, that
That's
sounds.
not that's not abnormal. That's a normal thought, and it's just a thought, and it's okay. And
Mm.
it's okay to be frustrated and think, what if, or what did I do? What didn't I do? But know that you are enough. That's my little like, social component to it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always nice too to have other, friends or family members or whatever that, either have a child with autism, or, you know, have a niece or nephew or something where, you can kind of go to them and talk about stuff, and, nobody's judging, and they get it, you know,
mhm,
they go through the same thing.
yeah.
But
um, for like a small therapy space. I mean, really, all you really need is like a little nook, again, nothing special. I kind of like to have like my sensory area and my teaching areas a little bit separate. That way there's that like divide, kind of like in my office, I know this is where I do my work. In my bedroom, that's just where I sleep. In the kitchen, that's where I eat. There's not a lot of overlap. A lot of the times our kids are very black and white, and they're very rule governed. This is where I eat. This is where I do therapy. This is where I swing. you know. Sometimes it is okay to have some overlap, and it will happen. You know, you're not going to throw off your whole teaching program if there is overlap. But I always recommend having some kind of degree of separation. All you really need is like a small table and chairs. You know, definitely the providers that you're working with will let you know if you need things that are, you know, supplemental. But I always say that, you know, too much distraction isn't, you know, or too much is, you know, you should, less is more.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an office in our house, and it quickly became Alex's therapy room.
Yeah.
And one big thing that we got that we, I guess, never had thought of was having like one of those gliders, you know, with the footstool, you know, the ottoman, because we saw that he had one in his sensory room at school, and we watched it, you know, live in front of us one day, like when we were going to meet the teacher when he first started it at his current school. And like, he was super amped up and excited, and, you know, in a new school with a bunch of new people and everything, and, you know, showed us the sensory room and sat down in this glider, and just within maybe 2 or 3 minutes was so much calmer that went out and bought one.
Yeah.
And he uses it all the time.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, it's interesting in terms of the ABA world and research, like sensory integration has not always been a thing in ABA. It was always thought of as just kind of like, that's some weird like hippie stuff, you know, like it doesn't work. Well, a lot of research says that it actually does help. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, 10 minutes ago, he was beating me up and he had a sensory break. He was swinging for 5 minutes. Now he's not.
Right.
Do I really need data right there? I don't think so. Like
Right.
he appears, the data suggests he appears to be doing better.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things like, you know, like, oh, like, you know, is it good? Did it work? Yeah. Okay. It's good.
Right.
Are there any questions that I can answer for you, Jenna, just about like ABA in general or spaces? How did it, you know, accommodations?
So we've got an extra bedroom
Okay.
in our house we'll be moving into. So we were kind of wanting to turn that into like a sensory room / therapy room.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious if that was like a good thing or bad thing to sort of like use that for everything. Like, can I have that be his playroom / sensory / therapy, or is that better to not have them all in?
Try it out. You know, I mean, you know, really the majority of ABA and therapy is going to be kind of trial and error, you know. There's no set rules or guidelines. Sometimes like I do like to have a little bit of separation if you're going to be doing like intensive teaching, you know, because, you know, you don't want to do that in your, you know, you might not want to do that in your playroom, because whenever they go into the playroom, they think, oh, I'm going to play, but when really they're going to be going to do work at the table. You know what I mean? However, you know, your ABA team should be working with you and your child and, you know, the family to help him understand, okay, well, you know, once I'm here and we're doing therapy at the table or floor or whatever, like you'll have to do a little bit of work, but we also have some fun, you know, so there should be some pairing there as well. So it's definitely not taboo. You can definitely have overlap.
All right. Yeah, I kind of figured it'd be like sort of one corner for one thing and then the other side of the room for something else, but we'll figure it out. So, okay.
That works. Yeah, that definitely works, you know, and, you know, I've been in lots of different types of homes with different types of spaces, you know, I've been in, you know, single wide trailers with 8 people living in them, you know, that was really challenging.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can definitely make it work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember too, when he started doing ABA, I mean, it was kind of all over the place, you know, all over the house, inside, outside, pretty much every room, you know, and it was like, let's find, you know, what works the best. And, you know, sometimes it was like in his room, sometimes it was in his, well, he calls it his office.
Apparently.
Yeah, he's taken over. But, you know, it just depended on what was going on. And 9 times out of 10 in the very beginning, it's all like play anyway.
It is.
He's got a pair, he's got a pair with the therapist for a while, and they try to make whatever that they're doing, kind of fun anyway. And, they don't really know the difference, honestly. The kids don't. So to them, it's just playing. They don't know that they're, having data taken on them, and that, they're really even being taught anything. It's just, somebody new's coming to play with me. And
this is cool. Yeah. I was like, you don't know that you're working on receptive identification of emotions. But yeah, and I've worked in homes where they've told me, you stay in this room the whole 4 hours. And I'm like, okay. I was like, we can do this. I was like, come on, guys. I was like, we can do this. In that case, we just did a lot of pairing. We made sure that the kids knew that we were associated with fun, with reinforcement. Once I start doing table with kids or intensive teaching, we might start out just by doing a few cards at a time and playing with the iPad for 5 minutes, just making that area fun. The whole point of it is just making everything fun.
Another thing that you could do, I was just thinking about like different, sensory things. The only thing that we hadn't really talked about is like, like food sensitivity a little bit, maybe there's like certain, treats or things like that, the kid may want to have, for whether it's for a reinforcer or not. But I was just thinking that it could be like a good reinforcer for whenever they're working. And, like Alex's was always goldfish. But, you could, that is the only time they get that as a reinforcer, and it stays in their therapy room. Or if they're having a meltdown or something like that, and they need some, squeezes, because that's what he used to always say to us, I want squeezes, that he could get his squeezes, and then, he would get the reinforcer for asking for it, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, you can pair those two together. Yeah.
But that way he's getting, something that's oral sensory as well as, full body sensory, getting his big squeezes and stuff in. I don't know, there's lots of different things you can do, but, as I've noticed as he's grown, we've learned a lot more about, kind of what works and what didn't. And, I guess when he was little, I wish I would have known what I know now about it, all that. But that's just part of
that's life.
Yeah. I mean, part of being a parent, life, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it for me, it has always been trial and error.
Say that again, Jenna. We missed that.
Oh, it's hard when they don't communicate too. It is a lot of guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, I think once you guys, get in and you guys get settled and stuff, that, you'll figure out like what kind of stuff works in there and what doesn't. And, like find, whatever kinds of, if he likes swings, or if he likes, like a weighted blanket or something like that, that's always something that was, like Alex had a weighted vest, and that calmed him down pretty quickly too. He didn't like it, but it works because he didn't want to calm down.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys will find things that, that works well for him, and you'll probably find more that doesn't. And that kind of helps you weed out the ones that do,
Yeah, swinging does work pretty good for him, actually. I wanted to get him one of those, like, it's like a sensory swing where it's like that stretchy fabric that kind of wraps all around him.
Those are cool.
Yeah, those are cool.
His therapist in Utah had one of those, and he really liked it. But he just likes when you like stick him in a blanket and swing it. That's kind of similar where it like wraps all around. But yeah.
Little cocoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember one of the I'm trying to remember, it might have actually been in more than one, but I specifically remember one of the OT and speech clinics he went to. in one of the gyms that they had like 4 or 5 different pieces of cloth, and I'm not sure what the difference was, but they would wrap him up real tight and, you know, kind of swing him in that, but they were just like laid out, you know, kind of like a, oh, I can't think of the word. I'm having a brain fart now. Oh, shoot. Oh, I forget what it's called. But he would lay in it for as long as you would let him. Like, even like if you take him to like a ball pit, he would love that. You know, when he was real little, we used to stick him in like a big plastic tote full of like those balls from a ball pit, and he loved it.
And even now, you know, there's a lot of options for the community. Sometimes if you go to like trampoline parks, they'll sometimes have like sensory friendly nights where where they say, you know, they don't want to exclude anybody, but they prefer the majority of, you know, clients that night to maybe be ones who might need a little extra attention, you know, and they'll dim the lights, they might rope off certain areas. I feel like more places are becoming more and more accommodating
Yeah.
to special needs children, especially children with autism.
Yeah. There was a place, there's a place in Mount Pleasant that does that, and it's forget what night. But it, you know, they do that, and I think they turn the music down so everything's not so loud, and I think it's, you know, fewer people that are allowed to come in, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Even at work myself, like this may be just me just being like, I don't know, aggro about things, but I'll put on my headphones at work sometimes. And then so my therapists know, okay, don't talk to Joanna when she has the headphones on.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, Jenna, do you have any other questions for Joanna?
Either about like real estate stuff or ABA, anything like that.
I almost feel like I don't know enough about ABA to even know what questions I have yet. But
I can talk to you for
I was
years.
saying, maybe you should give her like a little quick rundown of, you know, what you know, how you start doing it and what you first start doing with the kids and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So when I first start with a client, I first start by having my therapist, you know, build a rapport with the kid, because if he don't like you, he ain't gonna do anything for you, you know. So a lot of it may just look like playing, but really they're trying to associate themselves with reinforcers. That way, when we do start working, they understand, well, you know, like Miss Joanna makes me do some stuff, but she's cool because we can jump on the trampoline. So there's that association of a goodness with them. And really with ABA, we break things down into smaller and smaller steps and add a lot of prompts. And there's different kind of techniques that, you know, that we'll do depending on their skill set. And you mentioned that your son's about 3?
Yeah.
3 or 4. Okay, a little baby. Okay, that's so good. Yeah. So they may start out just by doing some things in the natural environment. Again, like Debbie said, it may look like they're just like playing, but if I say something like, "Hey, bud, hand me that pen," that's going to be like a receptive skill. I'm gauging whether or not you can understand my instruction and follow through with it. So there's receptive instruction and compliance, you know. Or if you're listening to music, "Hey, bud, you know, copy me, do this." Woo, arms up. I'm looking for gross motor imitation, you know, to try to get him up at that grade level or age appropriate level. And I always say air quotes because I don't know what that means anymore. But ABA is really, really fun. I always thought it was a little bit invasive. Sorry, someone keeps like beeping in. Just because they are, you know, in your home a lot. It's funny because at first parents are just like, "Oh, you know, pardon the mess, you know, like don't, you know, feel like you can go anywhere, whatever." And then within like a few weeks, they're like in their underwear. They're just like, "Hey, Joanna, what's up?" You know. You guys can hear that. My sister keeps texting me and it keeps popping through my computer and it's like distracting me. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah, so essentially we're going to be, sorry.
Okay. When you first start, how often is it normal to do it? Like it's pretty time intensive, right? Is that?
Yeah, so essentially now, I'm not sure what funding sources are requiring now or what certain companies do, but for the most part, one session may be at least 3 hours long. And typically, I think like a focused ABA program might be between 15 and 25 hours a week. A more comprehensive would be between 25 and 40 hours a week.
Wow. Okay.
It's
Yeah,
very,
it's
very,
a lot, but like Joanna can tell you this, we always asked for as much as possible. They'll come in, they'll do an evaluation and they'll say, this is how much time we think your child needs, and then they'll schedule however many days you want and try to do as many as possible, because the more you do at the younger age, the quicker they'll kind of catch up.
Yeah.
And it is very time consuming. It's very limiting on your time because it means you're kind of stuck where you are at home. But let me tell you, it's huge. She taught my kid how to pee on the potty, and that was enormous. And we were worried that he was never going to talk. We were worried that he was never going to, be able to read and, go potty and, on the toilet. And he was always going to be in diapers or something. Well, now he does all of it, and it's all because of ABA. So you give up a lot of your life, but it's to make their life better. So it's 100% worth it.
Yeah.
And don't be worried. Definitely don't be worried about. A lot of parents often worry about school. They say, oh, well, now he's 5, he's 6, he's supposed to be in school, but know that, at least in South Carolina, if you have a diagnosis of autism, then regular truancy laws do not apply. So you can actually have your ABA program. If you're doing 35, 40 hours a week, that counts as school. That's your curriculum. You're essentially in homeschool.
Got it.
Even though that's like years down the line, that's just something to keep in mind too. So don't feel anxiety about, well, we have to get this done in 2 years, 3 years, because they should be in school by that time. There's not a definitive timeline,
Okay.
Yeah. And Alex has had ABA after school for years. So, I mean, and, it doesn't, you would think the amount of time that he spends in school and then comes home and has ABA, or goes to a clinic and has ABA, that he'd be, ultra tired or whatever afterwards. He's not.
They never are. And I'm like, oh my God. By like noon, like, oh my God. And they're just like, more.
Well, if you don't have any other questions, it's right at 8. So I guess we are going to go ahead and end. And thank you, Joanna, very much. And thank you, Jennifer, for tuning in too. And if you ever have questions for her, if you want me to send you her contact info, is that okay with you, Joanna?
Yeah, so actually I am sending you a message in the chat, Jenna, if you can see it, with my email address.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, and trust me, there are no stupid questions. I can talk to you for years about ABA.
Great. Yeah, we do need to get Luke started on that. When we got him diagnosed, that's kind of the next step that the doctor recommended. Our insurance just doesn't cover it, so we're trying to get him set up for Tefra.
I was just gonna say, apply for Tefra Medicaid.
Yeah. I'm waiting. I applied, so we'll see what.
So is it, if you don't mind me asking, is it associated with Utah? Is it like Blue Cross Blue Shield Utah or something like that? Or
no, it's through my husband's job that's here in South Carolina now. Gosh, what is it? I can't even remember what it's called. I don't know if the insurance company is based here or if it's based in Washington, D.C. area, because they have offices in both places. But
because now legally, ABA has to be covered by insurance.
That's what I was reading online, that at least if the company has 50 or more employees, then they're required to offer that. So,
okay.
But I don't know how many employees my husband's company has in South Carolina. I told them to ask because I have a feeling they're supposed to be covering it and they're not because they don't know. So
Well, I know that ABA is really expensive.
Yeah.
But whatever, they won't cover, Tefra will.
Good.
So, yeah. I mean, I know I can't even remember how long it took us because we applied for it so long ago, but it does take a little while. But I mean, as long as there's a diagnosis, they'll approve you.
yeah, I think that's where we're at now. I applied online and then they sent me like a big packet of paperwork that they needed more stuff filled out. So I think now they've got everything signed. They're trying to collect all of the record stuff. So
Right.
we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Well, if you need help with that, let me know. I can help you.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Okie doke. All right. Well, I am going to stop recording.